a mountain so that she could see the smoke and know that her husband was coming back and that the war was over. He left, and according to predictions, they knew that the Greeks would be the winners of the war after 10 years. All these years were passing. Don't think that Clytemnestra was staying there alone waiting for her husband. She had a lover. Her lover was Aegisthus. So she was afraid that one day her husband will come back and see her with another man. She ordered this slave to stand on the roof of the palace day and night, looking the surrounding area, if he sees the smoke, to warn her that the king was coming back. The slave, one day he saw the smoke. He ran to the queen to announce the good news. The good news were bad news for her. So she started having plans killing her husband. When Agamemnon came back from Troy and he was in the bathroom, she threw a net above his head and she killed him with an axe. And then she announced to people that Aegisthus is your new king now. Later on, two young men arrived in this area. Orestes, the son of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, with his best friend Pylades. Orestes went inside the palace. He found Aegisthus and he killed him. And then he also killed his own mother, Clytemnestra, the queen. And since then, the Erinyes were chasing him. The Erinyes were the personification of remorses. Because he was feeling guilty for killing his mother, these women in dark dresses were torturing Orestes, so he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, etc. That's the story about Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae, and how he was killed by his wife after the Trojan War. These are all stories of Homer. We cannot be sure which part is the mythology and which part is the reality, because Homer described to us a lot of historical events, but also he was adding a lot of mythical elements. Keep in mind that the Trojan War did actually happen, according to the historians. 1200 BC is the estimated date for the fall of Troy, but not for beautiful Helen, that's the mythical part of the story, for economical reasons, the Greeks against the Trojans. Anyhow, Agamemnon, for sure, he was the king of Mycenae. He was not a mythical person. And you see, the Cyclopean walls, they were much taller than you see them now. Nothing is between the blocks. The only thing that brings them together is their weight. If you build a wall correctly, you don't need anything in between. And this was the main entrance of the Acropolis, called Lion's Gate. You can see that it's quite narrow and it's steep. Not a lot of people together could attack the walls of the Acropolis, and also they couldn't run very fast. The Mycenaeans were standing at the gate, killing the enemies before they could reach the walls. 1250 BC is the date of the Lion's Gate. That's the date of Atreus. The father of Agamemnon was Atreus. So this was the emblem of Atreus, and later on also of Agamemnon, his son. We have the two columns, you see the two pillars on both sides, that they support this huge block. In archaeology it's called lintel, 120 tons. And above the lintel you see this triangle, which is the characteristic of the period, and it is called by the archaeologists nowadays relieving triangle, because its purpose was to relieve the lintel from the weight of the superstructure. That is why they were building like that, so the whole weight does not base totally on the lintel. They decide to fill it in with this slab of limestone and this decoration. The two female lions, the one facing the other, they are stepping on two altars, and in the middle there is a small column. The archaeologists gave a lot of different explanations about the meaning of that. I will tell you the most important explanations that the archaeologists gave. Some of them say that the lions are the people of Mycenae, that they support the palace, they protect the palace. Some others say that the two lions are symbolizing the two civilizations, the Minoan and the Mycenaean civilization, because the Mycenaean civilization was based on the Minoan civilization. When the Mycenaeans first arrived, they didn't have a civilization. They were warriors. They learned it from the Minoans and they created their own civilization that is not exactly the same, although it has a lot of similarities. and some others say that the lions are the guards of the palace, and the altars and the column in the middle is symbolizing the right that was given from the gods to the royal family to rule people. Anyhow, today the Lion's Gate is restored with the original blocks though, but they were down when Schliemann came to this area. All of it was covered with dirt, and a very small part of the Lion's Gate was visible, and he started digging and he found it. And they didn't find the heads of the lions. They believe that the heads were made of gold, but you know that after the restoration you see that they didn't leave enough space to put the heads, so it's a bad restoration. The Lion's Gate was closed by a double doorway made of wood, which is not preserved anymore. And as we go in, on both sides you will see the holes from the bar that was closing the entrance. So this was the main gate of the Acropolis, not the only one. From the other sides of the walls they found other small secret gates, but everybody knew the existence of this one. Keep in mind also that the Acropolis of Athens and the Acropolis of Mycenae here is completely different period. This is much older. This is from the 15th to the 13th century before Christ. The Acropolis in Athens is 5th century before Christ. It's a lot later. And that is why in Athens we have the beautiful temples. Here we don't have any temple. Here we just had the palace, the houses, the cemetery, and the walls around to protect it. They were not building temples yet in this early period. Okay? So this was the most important kingdom of the Mycenaean civilization. Not the only one. We had many, many others. This was just the most important one. And the king of this palace was more important than the other kings around the mainland. Okay? Now we go in the Lion's Gate and I'll show you the cemetery where the gold was found. Let's go in.